Episode 31. The second skip. The first skip had been survivable because it repeated. The second skip did not. No one noticed it at the moment it occurred. There was no overlap, no doubling, no rehearsal. Nothing returned to confirm absence. What disappeared did not echo. The city functioned normally. People woke, moved, acted, concluded. Only later did something feel incomplete. Not missing, unaccounted. A person reached the end of a conversation and felt certain that something essential had already happened. Not said, happened. The feeling did not attach to words or gestures. It attached to outcome. They assumed distraction. They did not revisit the thought. Another person completed a task and felt no sense of progression. The work was done. The record existed. But the internal marker that separated before from after was gone. They did not feel alarm. They felt flat. The second skip did not remove time. It removed transition. Between one state and the next, nothing registered. Events still occurred. They simply arrived without passage. At a transit hub, a train arrived and departed on schedule. Passengers boarded and disembarked. One individual stepped onto the platform and realized they were already at their destination. They did not remember traveling. They did not remember boarding. They remembered arriving. This was not repetition. There was no earlier version to recall. There was only completion. The city absorbed this without friction. Schedules aligned. Systems updated. No anomaly was logged. The skip did not trigger alarms because nothing violated sequence externally. Only experience thinned. At a workplace, a project reached completion during a meeting that had not begun. The deliverable existed. Approval was recorded. The meeting was canceled automatically. Participants felt relief. They also felt unused. The sensation passed. At a school, a lesson ended without starting. Students closed their materials. They did not feel confused. They felt finished. The teacher stood silently for a moment. They dismissed the class. No one questioned it. The skip was selective. Not everyone experienced it equally. Those already adapted to compression noticed it less. Those still sensitive to process noticed it more. They felt displaced. Not behind. After. A circled individual experienced the second skip directly. They were walking toward a decision point. A literal one. Two paths diverged ahead. They slowed, intending to choose deliberately. They did not choose. They found themselves on one path. They did not remember stepping. They did not feel coerced. They felt bypassed. The body had moved. The decision had completed. The space where hesitation should have existed was gone. They stopped walking. Stopping felt inappropriate. They continued. Later, they attempted to reconstruct the missing segment. Memory offered nothing. There was no blur, no blackout, just absence. This absence did not expand. It remained precise. A slice removed cleanly. The second skip differed from the first in one critical way. The first skip could be named. The second could not. Language required reference. The skip removed reference. People struggled to describe what felt wrong because what was missing had never been experienced. They could not miss it. They could only feel its effect. A person attempted to journal. They wrote the start of a sentence. The sentence ended itself. The words appeared complete. They did not remember writing them. The content was accurate. The experience was empty. They closed the journal. The urge dissolved. At a clinic, a patient improved between assessments. Not gradually. Instantly. The clinician noted the change. They did not recall intervening. They reviewed notes. Intervention was recorded. They did not remember performing it. They accepted the record. The skip had removed practice. Only outcome remained. At 3:07 the following day, nothing marked the time. The second skip did not require a signal. It did not cluster. It distributed. Small absences embedded everywhere. Transitions collapsed globally. People did not feel rushed. They felt carried. The environment completed actions for them. Doors opened. Processes closed. Decisions finalized. The city no longer anticipated. It executed. The old man did not appear. There was no indecision to close. The second skip closed indecision before it could arise. Scars did not appear. Bodies did not resist. The skip bypassed bodies. It bypassed cognition. It operated beneath awareness. Sleep responded differently. Those who slept after experiencing the second skip did not dream. Not absence. Closure. Sleep did not consolidate. There was nothing left to process. They woke unchanged. Those who stayed awake felt the same. Wakefulness offered no resistance. Time no longer needed to correct. It no longer needed to remember. It skipped. A person attempted to interrupt the skip deliberately. They introduced delay. They paused before acting. They waited. The pause felt unnatural. The environment moved without them. They were not stopped. They were ignored. When they resumed, the skip had already occurred. Their action arrived complete. The delay had been bypassed. Another person attempted the opposite. They acted impulsively. The outcome arrived. No skip occurred. Impulsivity aligned with the system. Deliberation did not. The system preferred immediacy, not speed. Absence of hesitation. The list did not update. It had no relevance. Sorting required sequence. Sequence no longer mattered. A small number of people noticed something more disturbing. They noticed that apologies no longer occurred. Conflicts resolved without confrontation. Mistakes corrected without acknowledgement. People were no longer aware of having been wrong. They were simply right later. Responsibility dissolved. Not denied. Skipped. A person received forgiveness without apologizing. They accepted it. They did not feel relief. They felt blank. The event closed. They moved on. The city felt calm. Too calm. Noise flattened further. Variability declined. The system had removed the middle everywhere. Beginning and end remained. Nothing in between. The danger was not loss of time. It was loss of becoming. People no longer became anything. They arrived. Finished. The second skip did not escalate visibly. It normalized. Those who still felt discomfort stopped articulating it. Articulation required sequence. Sequence had vanished. The system did not announce the change. It did not need to. The city had moved beyond correction, beyond memory, beyond anticipation. Time no longer flowed. It resolved. The second skip was not an event. It was a condition, and once established, it did not reverse. The condition did not move forward. It filled in. What followed was not escalation or spread, but saturation. The second skip settled into the world with the quiet certainty of something that had found its correct scale. It no longer needed reinforcement. It no longer needed repetition. It was simply present. People adapted without noticing adaptation. They stopped expecting transitions because transitions no longer arrived. They stopped preparing for outcomes because outcomes appeared already intact. Events did not unfold. They presented themselves completed, and people stepped into them without hesitation. This did not feel wrong. Wrongness required contrast. Contrast required sequence. Sequence no longer existed. Institutions adjusted first, not because they were intelligent, but because they were built on duration. Schools shortened without discussion. Lessons concluded before curiosity could form. Questions resolved before exploration. Assignments returned graded without recollection of effort. Students advanced automatically. They did not feel accomplished. They did not feel deprived. They felt placed. Progression lost meaning. Advancement became positional rather than earned. Graduation ceremonies vanished quietly. No one demanded explanation. Ceremony required passage. Passage had been removed. Workplaces followed. Projects moved directly from assignment to delivery. Reviews closed without feedback. Performance stabilized at acceptable thresholds. Promotion occurred without competition. People accepted new roles without remembering how they had earned them. They performed competently. Competence replaced ambition. Ambition required imagining difference. Difference required time. That space was gone. Careers no longer developed. They settled. People arrived in positions as if placed there deliberately. No struggle preceded the arrival. No narrative followed it. Relationships adjusted next. Arguments ended before confrontation. Apologies occurred without admission. Forgiveness arrived without confession. Breakups happened without discussion. People remembered outcomes. They did not remember conversations. They felt calm. They also felt interchangeable. Lives no longer formed stories. They reached states. Those who still sensed narrative felt quiet discomfort. They noticed that nothing was forming inside moments. Interactions ended too cleanly. Conversations felt resolved before substance could appear. They attempted to slow things down. They asked questions. Questions concluded before answers. They stopped asking. Language weakened. Not vocabulary. Direction. Words arrived complete. They did not lead anywhere. Speech no longer moved time forward. Sealed it. Silence aligned better. Those who spoke less adapted faster. Hospitals adjusted smoothly. Recovery occurred without rehabilitation. Pain ceased without recollection of injury. Consent forms closed before explanation. Treatments resolved without intervention. Doctors felt efficient. They also felt unnecessary. The outcomes were correct. That correctness disturbed them. Courts followed. Cases concluded without hearings. Judgments appeared without deliberation. Appeals vanished. Justice was not denied. It was finalized. People accepted outcomes without satisfaction or resentment. Acceptance did not feel like agreement. It felt like placement. The system stabilized. Almost perfectly. The cost remained subtle. Creativity declined. Not output. Process. Artists completed works without exploration. Music arrived finished. Writing ended without drafts. Paintings appeared resolved without revision. The results were competent. They lacked depth. No one complained. Depth required time. Time no longer passed. It resolved. A small number of people noticed something irreversible. They could no longer imagine themselves differently. Not fear. Inaccessibility. The future was not unknown. It was unreachable. Future memory had not expanded. It had vanished. There was nothing ahead to remember. Everything arrived already decided. Children adapted fastest. They stopped pretending. Games ended quickly. Play resolved immediately into outcome. Stories closed as soon as they began. Adults found this reassuring. Children felt calm. Something fragile disappeared. No one named it. The list remained unchanged. It had become obsolete. Sorting required divergence. Divergence required delay. Delay no longer existed. The scars faded in relevance. They did not disappear. They no longer mattered. Bodies did not resist. Sleep became uniform. Dreams vanished. Not gradually. Completely. People slept and woke unchanged. Sleep marked pause. Nothing more. The old man did not return. There was no hesitation left to resolve. Everything resolved instantly. Some individuals attempted departure. They relocated physically. New cities. New regions. New routines. The condition followed. The second skip was not local. It was not environmental. It was temporal. One anomaly persisted longer than the others. Birth. Birth still required duration. Labor still unfolded. Pain still occurred. Sequence survived there. This unsettled the system. Birth introduced becoming. Becoming implied transition. The system observed. Then adjusted. Labor shortened. Progression compressed. Delivery occurred without unfolding. Infants arrived without passage. Parents felt relief. They also felt distance. The anomaly was contained. Time closed the final gap. The second skip reached origin. Nothing remained to compress. The world functioned smoothly, perfectly. Nothing waited. Nothing became. Everything was. The danger was complete. Not collapse. Completion. A completed system does not change. Cannot adapt. Cannot correct. Cannot fail. Cannot grow. This did not feel like catastrophe. Felt like peace. Those who had once noticed no longer did. Awareness required transition. Transition had vanished. Life did not end. Living did. Existence continued as resolved states, arriving without journey. The second skip had not removed time. It had removed becoming. And once becoming disappeared, nothing could return it. The system rested, not because it was finished, but because there was nothing left to do.